Hello, hello. I want to welcome all of you to another hour of some of the stuff that is hard to find anywhere else except right here on this radio station and this radio show, the Universal Consciousness Show. We'll try to entertain you, educate you, open your mind up a little bit, and stretch your mind, and sometimes just blow your mind away. And hopefully we'll do some of that tonight too. It's kind of becoming a habit, you know. So my name is Aage, and my co-host Diana over in Germany was busy tonight. She couldn't make it, so it's just me here and the guest. But first, for those of you that like to listen to this show again, you will go to where it is pretty much everywhere on the social media, and also go to the www.universal-consciousness-show.com. And of course, be on YouTube and under Universal Consciousness Show, and please subscribe there. That'll help us a lot. So, and also we're on Facebook under my name and Universal Consciousness Show, and also LNM Radio. That's Late Night in the Midlands radio. So you'll find it there, and of course on Twitter and everywhere else that the station puts it on. And spread this around for us. We a lot of good information here that people need to know about. So just send it to all your friends and relatives and people you know, and some people you don't like. Send it to them too. They just might like it. And today we have a very interesting guest with us, Michael Vara. He's the owner of the Late Night in the Midlands Radio Network, which of course you will find at LNMRadioNetwork.com. And of course you know that if you listen to the live show right here. So Michael is a very interesting guy. He has interviewed many of the most influential and interesting people in the world. And he has some stories, and I like for us maybe to talk about some of those stories today. And I will be all ears. So, Michael, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you very much, my friend. It's an honor to be here, and it's a miracle that I'm here. It's 2:00, but thank you for having me. Yeah, it's very rare that I'm ready for radio in the afternoon, but boy, it does feel good to be on early.
Well, you are kind of turned around the clock here, haven't you, and doing most of your stuff at night?
Oh yeah, absolutely. But I guess the good thing about doing it, during the day is, now when the show's over, you got the rest of the day and the night.
Absolutely. And of course, for this show, this hour here, that's prime time in Europe. So we get the European audience more so than probably many other shows. If they're at 4 a.m, they're not going to be all that interested until they can get the replay.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've had, because of the name, when I started my show, because of the name Late Night in the Midlands, I think it caught on kind of with a lot of people in the UK, because I guess they thought the show was, in the Midlands in the UK.
Oh, there you go.
So, but they weren't disappointed. They've stuck around, and we've got a lot of
excellent
people. Yeah, we get a lot of play from around the world, and we appreciate every bit of it.
Yeah. Hey, Michael, I want to ask you a personal question.
Sure.
Why in the world did you go out and create a radio station when you could have done a career like normal people?
That is such a great question. It's a good thing that I didn't know then what I know now. I might have made another career choice, but I don't know. It's one of those things. When I was doing my show, and I seen the way people treated me when I first came out and started doing my radio show. And it's like a lot of the hosts who were established already, didn't want anything to do with helping. I mean, it was almost like you had the cooties or something, you know. And I says, well, you know what? There's a lot of great talent that's coming out, and nobody knows about them in some cases, and in other cases, nobody will give them a shot. So I figured I'd give it a shot and see how putting a network together would go, and hopefully giving a home to like people like Riscala, for instance. He was a guy who used to just call into the show. And he's been going for I don't know how many years. He's had his own show. He called in one night, and I said, Riscala, you should have your own show. And I asked him if he wanted it, and he actually took me up on it. So that's kind of why I did it. And people, believe me, one of these days I want to write a book about behind the scenes in radio. And people, I think some people will be surprised just how ugly it can get.
You know that guy? You changed his life.
Yeah.
You made it more interesting because now he's got a bigger global scope to it than he had just being there, you know, sitting or listening to a show.
Oh, yeah. Well, he would call in and he always had so much to say. He always had such great input. And I thought, you know, people should hear you. And then he had a good radio voice. He does have a good radio voice. So,
Thanks.
Yeah.
That is. Yeah, and now, after how long have you been doing LNM?
LNM, I started. I could tell you how it started. LNM started in 2012. LNM, the network. I started my radio show back in actually 2007. I started tinkering around with this radio stuff, and then in 2008 I came up with Late Night in the Midlands, but. The network I started in 2012 after having my show. You know, I used to just do a solo thing, and I came across a guy who I thought was, you know, pretty cool, and we got along well, and I thought we were, you know, aiming at the same goals, and that was to get to the truth no matter what it took. And turned out this guy was, you know, I helped build his network, kind of like what Ira's done for me. And but unfortunately, this guy decided he wanted to go a different route, and he wanted to get into the church crowds because there was more money with that. And so then he started telling me he was in contact with God, and that if I went against him, God was going to take everything from me. And at that point, I said, all right, I've got to go. And so my goal was to just kick him in the dirt. So I started the network. For that not for the reason to just compete with him, but just to show him how it would be done. And so here we are.
Yeah, and now you are eating everybody's lunch.
That's what I'm told. And, you know, I hate to say that because, you know, I hate to, but, you know, some networks get angry because I say we're the number one network in the land, but in my heart, we are. So, but yeah, eating their lunch, and some of them aren't liking it. And listen, I play well with others. I mean, if they're nice to me, I'm nice to them.
Yeah.
But some don't play very nice.
Yeah, I've been on. I've had this show on your platform since I think January or so, and would you have at least double, very close to triple the hosts on the platform since I came on here. So this is really, really going.
Well, yeah, when you came along, you're right. There was I don't know, somewhere maybe around 16 shows, something like that, and it just started growing. It's like people started contacting us and wanting to come aboard, and I mean, so you know, we've grown a lot bigger than I thought we were gonna. I could tell you that.
Yeah. And you got the growing pains. So maybe later on towards the end of the show, we can talk a little bit about that, because there's some interesting aspects to that probably a lot of people don't know about that can happen.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And, you know, and it's funny when you're, I hate to say king of the hill, but that's kind of the term I'll use, because, you know, we've all played on the snow mountain, right? At least a lot of us have. And, you know, you want to push the other guy off. And that's kind of how it is when you start getting things when you're doing things right and you're at the top of your game. Everybody, it seems like everybody out there wants to knock you off it. It's like they
Yeah.
want what you got, and so
Yeah, that's kind of like there's a term out there for it. I think I'm gonna leave that one alone. But let's you have interviewed some of the most influential and interesting people in the world, and especially among the people that at least think some outside of the box.
yeah, absolutely, I have, and I often get asked who was my favorite guest and what was my most favorite interview with that guest. And up until a couple nights ago, I would have said, boy, that's a hard one. But at this point, I could say one of my favorites was just a couple nights ago with a guest who had an abduction story that he shared with me, and I absolutely believe the guy. I mean, they took lie detector tests and all kinds of stuff, and I'm talking about Kelvin Parker.
Mm.
And these guys, they had a heck of an ordeal, and the reason why I picked that one is because to me, this is a guy who had contact, and I really believe had contact with extraterrestrials, or at least beings from somewhere else other than Earth. And to me, that is the most fascinating thing that, I mean, just short of being able to shake ET's hand myself, being able to talk to a guy who, well, didn't quite shake their hands, but made contact with them. They made contact with him, is fascinating. And so there are some out there who are telling the God's honest truth when they say that they have been abducted and such. And, I know it sounds like a fairy tale to some people, but, there are some people, and Travis Walton's another one. And if I ever got him on the show, I've had him scheduled a couple times, but it didn't work out. He didn't make it. But if I ever got him on the show, he'd probably be my next favorite.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you've had a lot of people there, and goofy things happen sometimes. I know from even from when I did the TV shows here in Tucson for 6 years, and you have a guest coming in, and he's late, 2 minutes to live showtime, he's still not there. Have you had many of those?
Oh my God, I've had plenty of those through the years, and so, and probably more than some of the other shows, because I don't do pre-interviews, and I kind of don't babysit either. So I'll schedule a guest, and sometimes the guests say, "Oh, make sure you remind me, 3 days before. Make sure." And I say, "Well, who's going to remind me?" It's like, get a calendar, mark it down.
Yeah.
And so then on show night, I'll usually, early in the afternoon, I'll hit them with a message and say, "Looking forward to talking with you tonight," and touch base with them. But I don't do any pre-interviews, or I just tell them, "Hey, I want you on to talk about this," and then that's where it goes. And so then the night they come on, wherever that conversation leads, it leads. And but yeah, I've had that happen, and thankfully I've got some good backups like Robert Pepino, Dr. Jason Rand, Ira occasionally, Ryan. Sometimes I even pull Daryl down if that happens. But people don't understand. It's a little hard when you're live on the air to start calling people to come on the show. So
yeah. Yeah, I had that too. And when the guest didn't show up, I just had to grab a subject and talk on it for an hour. And after a while, it's something's missing when the guest doesn't show up. You're all psyched up for it. And have you ever had anybody that was, I got to use the word, so bad that you had to cut him short and just say, goodbye?
I have had a few of those too. I could tell you one that stands out to me. I had a lady. This is amazing, right? When people write books, they usually write books, and then it's because they want people to buy them, and they want to get their story out, and they come on radio shows so they can talk about those books. And I had a woman who came on, and I again didn't know where it was going to go, and I welcomed her on, and I said, so tell me a little bit about the book. Let's start there. And she gave me the title and I don't know, a few other words, and then got silent. And I said, okay, but tell me. I tried to get her to, tell me a little bit. Tell people why they need to buy it. What's it about? Well, I don't want to give anything away because I want people to buy. And she refused to talk about her book. And I says, well, I guess that's going to do it then. And I think she lasted probably 6-7 minutes with me, and I let her go. I mean, what are we going to talk about? About your book, right? And then I've had others too who just, sometimes you'll get a guest who really makes you work. They, you ask them a question and it's yes or no. They don't give you the long answer. It's like, oh, this is going to be a long night. So yeah, I've had those guests and I've let them go. And but you know what? I've had actually a couple of those guys. I've actually had them back later, and they turn out to be really, really good. So they, after a couple of years, they learned something somewhere. So,
yeah. Well, after being shut out or cut off on a few shows, then they should probably reassess their practices.
Yeah, well, the woman that didn't want to talk about her book. You want to talk about awkward? After I let her go on the break, her brother called me during the break, and he was like, I'm sorry, and he's explaining, why, and it's just really awkward. And he thinks at this point he doesn't know I've cut her off yet, and he's trying to tell me why. Just keep going, everything will be all right. And I'm thinking, well, at what point do I tell him I've already canned your sister?
Yeah.
But so yeah, it's interesting. Radio is one of the most interesting things I've ever done in my life. It's unpredictable, and you get people who love you to death, and you get people who hate you, and so it is what it is.
Yeah, and the thing about it too is that especially I noticed that here in Tucson, this is a story I was talking about the illegal aliens coming in over the border from Mexico, and I was making a little bit of an off-colored comment about them, and I got death threats.
You know what? I've had that too. I've had, as a matter of fact, I was just talking to some folks last night after the show and telling them that I had for a period of time because of some, how will I put it? I don't know, some jealous folks out there who, I had people sitting out front of my house, just sitting there. And basically waiting to see if I come out or whatever, because they want to know if they got the right house. So yeah, you believe me, it's a lot of fun when you start telling the truth. But you know what? As far as the illegals go, and I've got big opinions on that stuff. When it comes to the illegals, some people talk like, oh, they just want a better life, just let them in, and well, that's great, but you go try to do that in anybody else's country, and it's not going to fare well for you. And the point is, folks, we can't just let everybody come in the United States. Just like I can't let every radio host in the world come on LNM. It just wouldn't work. You can't let everybody come in. We've got laws, and as soon as you stop obeying or enforcing those laws, you don't have a country no more. It's over.
Yeah. And we're seeing that now in Europe.
Yeah. Oh, well, exactly. Look what Merkel did in Europe. I mean, and that was part of the plan. I mean, Obama, these guys were all, they were having their own little meetings after, these guys were all in bed together. Obama, Merkel, All these countries, they were just about to rein in their new world order, I think.
They were pretty close, and if if Hillary had gotten the presidency, then that would have happened.
Boy, talk about somebody being butthurt. She is she is not a happy camper. She is she just will not let it go. She's got every excuse in the book why she didn't become president. And the only one she's not used is the truth. You sucked as a candidate. It's just that simple. She lied. She got caught in lies all the time. And, I don't know. Some Americans don't want liars in office, although that's usually all you get. But, I think for me, the only difference between the Democrats and Republicans, and I think they're the same party, to be honest with you, almost, but they're all in bed together. And I think the only difference is Donald Trump as far as that goes. And I know people don't like him, but did they see the what was it? The economic growth report came out. What are we? 4.1% growth. Is that today? How could you hate that? How could you be mad at a president for doing that for this country? What's the problem? It's crazy.
Well, when you start thinking in those terms that the liberals do, then all sense goes out the window, because I got opinions on the illegal aliens too, because I am also an immigrant to the United States, but I did it the legal way through paperwork. I came here to go to school, and then I got a citizenship. That's what they should do, and there are channels where you can do that. So yeah, it's a little longer than crawling across the border, but it is the way that you can get to stay, and that's the way they should do it.
That's right. I'm not saying that maybe the system needs to be overhauled a little bit to make it not so difficult, but at the same time, I feel that it is very unfair to people like yourself who did it the right way. And you did it the right way because, that shows a great respect for the country you're going to. When you take the time to do things the right way, learn the language, I, as a matter of fact, I worked with a guy when I first started my show, and I was working at a company. There was a guy, he was from Vietnam, and he escaped from Vietnam. And he got a sponsor here in the United States, and he went for 2 years. He was going to school, learning the Constitution, learning who all the senators and the congressmen and all that. So here we'd be sitting on lunchtime, and there'd be Americans, and then there'd be him, and I would ask questions, and he could answer any of the questions. Who's a representative in this state, or that's it, and he'd answer it, and the people who have been here the whole time, the Americans didn't have no idea. Some of them didn't even know who the vice president was.
Yeah.
And that's why, I shook the guy's hand, and that's why I speak up about this stuff, because he did things right, and it's not fair to him. You're basically telling him and you that, well, if you had just come in the country and hid for a while, somebody would have given you amnesty, and that's just not, I don't think that's proper. That's not that's kind of spitting in the face of the people who've done it right.
Yeah, and you see a lot of the, they call them undocumented immigrants. Well, yeah. They many of them don't even want to learn the language, because they kind of click together and they stay together. And we see it down here in the Southwest a lot, because you can go down the street in Tucson and you see or hear people speaking Spanish all the time. They're walking along the street. And my philosophy, before I left Europe, I traveled a lot. And if I went to Sweden, I spoke Swedish. If I went to Denmark, I spoke Danish. If I went to Germany, I spoke German. And why not? Don't they want to integrate? And especially the ones that are coming over from the Middle East, they don't really care about this society. They want to take it over and change it into their rot gut of a society.
That is exactly right. And, here's how I see it now. If I was president of the United States, what I would do is when people wanted to come to this country from another country, I would look at that country and I would look at what kind of laws do they have in place. Like there's some Middle Eastern countries, some of them, who allow adults to marry children. And now, do you really want to invite people from a country like that into our country? Because just because your laws are different doesn't mean that they were brought up in a system where that's okay. Do you think they're going to just come over here and change it like that? I don't, and I
No.
could be wrong, but I don't think I am. And I think over in Canada they're starting to figure out that they've got a little Obama Jr. over there, and he just like Merkel. They thought they would be considerate and compassionate and say, well, whatever that racist president of the United States, whoever he turns away, you could come here and we'll take you. And now what's going on over there? They're gonna lose their country. They're gonna lose their values. They're gonna lose their traditions. And before you know it, I mean, here in the United States, I've been getting told this a lot now, and it's really starting to irritate me. But it's my understanding, and I don't know if you've heard about this, but there's groups who are going around now and saying to pedophile groups who are saying that they can't help who they love and that they want to be recognized. They want their rights. I don't know if this is some kind of joke or not, but I've heard it. I've not seen it. And if that's the case, I mean, don't be parading down my street about that pedophilia stuff, because it's not going to be good.
It's a form of mental illness, and they should be I don't know the solution to this, but they should be dealt with in their. Do you know what the Vikings did? If somebody raped a woman, they killed him.
Yeah.
If they beat a woman, they got beat. And they treated them in the same manner of the crime that they did.
See, I am 100% all for that, as long as we could, without any doubt, prove that that person is guilty, and I'd be all for. I mean,
correct, yeah.
I want to pull the wood chipper out of the shed. And I mean, I think that's the best thing. I was just telling you a couple people last night. Here's the benefit of the wood chipper: we get rid of the trash and we fertilize the forest. I mean, they make good fertilizer. If they don't make good human beings, they make good fertilizer.
Yeah, well, maybe there's a thought to that.
Yeah, but that's my thoughts. I mean, so when people are calling President Trump a racist and all this, I mean, he's looking out for the country. The guy sees what's happened, and and look, if he was a racist, I wouldn't stand up for him. The fact of the matter is, he didn't say Mexicans were rapists and horrible people. He says that those kind of people come from over the border, is what he said. Yeah. And so everyone took it the wrong way. But, when it comes down to it, I don't know how many people know this, but if you were to join ISIS, say, one of the first things they do is when you get there is they let you pick your wife, and you get to pick from a 6-year-old to a 60-year-old. And if you're okay with that, those kind of people coming to your town, I don't want you. Oh
boy.
Yeah. So it's a interesting world we live in, where people are becoming a lot more tolerant of things that not long ago you might have been killed for. Like you said, the Viking. I kind of like the Vikings the way they thought. I think the same way. If you beat a woman, you should get beat like that woman. If you murder somebody, if you stab them to death, well, guess what? I think that you might face the same fate. Now, that may sound like some dictator to some, but you want to see how quick crime settles down.
Absolutely, and it's the same all like the saying here. A well-armed society is a polite society, and See, now we're down at the bottom of the hour, so let's take a 3-minute or 4-minute break. Depends on how many bills that has to be paid. So we will be back right after that, talking with Michael Vara.
Available now, Troll Spray. Do you have problems with trolls? Do you constantly find yourself turning on the light of truth and find they come out of the woodwork after you? Give your trolls a quick squirt of Troll Spray and you'll be amazed at how quickly they flee. Troll Spray has been tested on all of the different types of trolls, shills, false prophets, doomsayers, sock puppets, and of course, those ever fearsome hostile radio show hosts. It works on them all. Get Troll Spray today, available only at LNM Radio Network. Spray the trolls away with Troll Spray.
Why subscribe to Late Night in the Midlands, you ask? Well, I'll tell you why. Late Night in the Midlands covers everything, and through the thousands of expert guests who have joined Michael Vara on his show, come pieces of the big puzzle, which started many years ago. Michael and his guests reveal information dating back to the beginning of time. To this very moment, Michael Vara not only brings you the best guests with the best information, but Michael is not afraid to call out those who are less than honest. You see, in this day and age, we need a radio show we can count on and a radio host we can trust to expose the truth one show at a time. So become a late nighter and subscribe now. Talk radio like no other. Late Night in the Midlands, bringing the truth back to talk radio.
Great fear and trembling shall seize them, even to the ends of the earth. The earth shall be heard, and all things which are in it perish, while judgment shall come upon all, even upon all the righteous. Behold, he comes with 10,000s of his saints, to execute judgment upon them and destroy the wicked. Yet as God has appointed, so are all things brought to pass. No peace shall be to you.
Do you think social media is the end-all be-all? Do you live and breathe by Facebook and other platforms? Do you spend hours and hours endlessly going through posts by alleged friends in an endless quest to have a life? You need Fakeaway, available exclusively through the LNM Radio Network. Our crack scientific teams have worked tirelessly to perfect this product and have made it available to you through this limited offer. Fakeaway can solve the problems suffered by you and many others. It can help you understand you have been snowed by the fake media, the social media biases you encounter every time you click refresh, and even help your hair grow by keeping you from pulling it out over the smallest offenses. Get Fakeaway today, only through LNM Radio Network. Fakeaway is not for shills, disinfo agents, lovers of politicians who keep screwing the country, constant end-of-the-world predictors, liars, hostile radio show hosts, or snowflakes.
Hello, hello, and We are back here with the Universal Consciousness Show, and we're talking with Michael Vara, and we are freewheeling it. We are talking about all the goofy stuff that happens in radio and discussing some very interesting subjects. And I gotta tell you, Michael, I just love that commercial. Where can I get some of that fake away?
Oh, I told Ira, I said, we're advertising this stuff. I literally was getting emails from people asking if they could buy this stuff. They want the troll spray too. And I told them maybe we should get an air freshener and put a troll label on it. And
yeah.
I mean, because when things smell good, there's no trolls around.
But, yeah, there you go. They don't like that. So
yeah. So I'm gonna have to ask Ira if he's got time now. Maybe he'll open up a store and start selling that stuff.
Yeah. I was making the comment right before the break that a well-armed society is a polite society, because who would be stupid enough to try to steal the purse of a woman that he suspects may have a gun in her pocket?
Well, I would even go further and say, who would be crazy enough to steal a purse, period?
Yeah.
I can't believe people, the cojones, or I don't even know if I'd call it, ain't cojones. I don't know what you'd call it, but yeah, I don't know. Who would do something like that?
I know, and the thing about it is that I know this gun issue is a very explosive one. When people get together and talk about it, is almost as bad as religion. And if you remember back in, I think it was about 1988 or something like that, there was this town in Georgia, Kennesaw, Georgia. They had a horrendous crime problem. So the city council passed the law, or the city ordinance, that within the city limits, every household had to own a gun. And crime dropped to next to nothing overnight.
I agree. That's, here in South Carolina, you don't have to have a permit to own a gun. Like, I can go to the gun store today and I could pick out the gun I want, pay for it. There's supposed to be a 5-day waiting period, but that's the extent of it. And then I could bring that gun home, fully loaded, sit it right here on this desk, and defend myself. And if I'm going to travel with it, if I don't have a permit, all I have to do is take the ammo from the gun and keep them separated in the car. But you at least could get around. You could have a gun without. And I'll tell you what, here the Domino's man is packing, and there's been crackheads who have tried to rob the Domino's man, and they ended up on the wrong end of whatever pistol he had. So look, when people are armed, you're going to think twice about going into houses because you don't know.
Yeah. I think that people that is against ownership of guns should also give up their fire alarms, because that's what the fire department is for. If you get a fire, call them. They'll come and put it out, right?
Well, yeah, exactly. I see. I've got my neighbors around me. They're all, they think the way I do. Thankfully, the ones that live right next to me. But if I had a neighbor next door and the neighbor, was totally against guns, I would be one of those people who'd put a sign in the front lawn, rob them. They're not armed.
Yeah, I've seen a sign like that.
Yeah. So, one day, this is going back several years. I was in my early 20s, and I was in Rochester, New York. I remember I was in a ghetto neighborhood. I didn't live in wonderful neighborhoods all the time, and I was coming out of the corner store, and I heard a woman screaming, this older woman, right? So, and some guy had grabbed her purse, ripped it out of her arm, and was hauling butt with it. Well, me, thinking I'm some superhero, I have nothing, and I don't know what this guy has, and I want to chase him down. So I open my buddy's car, and I take out the snow brush. It's at night, so he can't see me really well, and I'm chasing him through a field, and I'm pointing the snow brush like it's a gun because I want him to think I have a gun. And I'm telling him, you don't stop, I'm gonna shoot. I'm chasing this guy with a snow brush for, oh God, I don't know, until my heart's about to stop. He finally gives up. The cops get there, and then the cops start treating me like a criminal. Like, what'd you go after for? Anyways, in the end, it turned out that in her purse, you know what she had? $10 in food stamps. That's what the guy took, and that's what I risked my life for. But she got her purse back, and she got her food stamps back, and the cops are, boy, I'll tell you, I don't know about now in Rochester, but at the time, not very nice. And and I told her, I said, well, I'm sorry I had to do your job. Maybe if you guys were on the ball, this wouldn't have happened. I don't know what to tell you. But so the crazy world.
Yes, it is. And we have to think it into a better world. And you know what they say, that if we live in a mind-created universe, then it's all depending on what is in our mind and what we allow to be festering in there. So we should start, probably more so than many of us do, start redesigning the world around us to the way what we want it, and then think it into existence and then move forward. And I've been doing a lot of that lately.
You know what's wrong with the planet right now is that it's like having two people in the car. Both of them got their hands on the steering wheel. One's pulling to the right and one's pulling to the left, and the car is just swerving all over the road. And I think the answer to it, and this is real simple, and I'm sure people have heard this many times, but it starts with each one of us. When you get up in the morning and you look in the mirror, promise yourself you're going to be the best person you can be. And if everybody did that, the world would change overnight.
Yeah. It starts with us.
It does. It absolutely does. And, I don't know where we're going with on this planet these days. I hear a lot of people talking about end times, and I'm not one who really believes in the whole biblical prophecy. This is what's going to happen. I don't think anything's written in stone. I think that we can change anything, but we have to, it's like anything. You got to admit you have a problem first. And, I think we all admit we've got a problem on this planet right now. And if we don't start turning things around, I wonder sometimes if we don't get tested, we get put on this planet, and it's like civilizations before us. We hear that, well, something wiped them out. Is it that they're stubborn every time, that instead of putting our resources into bettering mankind or humankind, according to Canadian president, instead we put our resources into destruction and war and that kind of thing, and deception. And so that's why we might not make it every time. So I don't know. I hope we learn from it, because at one stage of the game, the planet, something's going to happen. And you know what? By the way, I'll break this. If it's breaking, I'll do it right here on your show. I got a message from a friend of mine, James, and he is warning me about a nuclear reactor near me here in South Carolina. As a matter of fact, he mentioned the road, which is not too far away from me at all. I could probably get there in like 10 minutes. And he says that it has 3 cracks and has been leaking for 2 weeks, and supposedly just Columbia residents. He said it's 100 times over the limit. And he said that now he is asking me if I've heard anything locally. And no, I haven't, but this is really concerning to me. And I definitely want to check it out. So
I read that too. And one of them was a 6 meter long crack, and it was about 6 inches wide. And that is it's a nuclear material factory right on the outskirts of Columbia. So yeah, it is there and it is leaking. I read this. So
boy, I tell you, it might be time to get out of this place for real. It's the Westinghouse Nuclear Fuel Facility on Bluff Road. Bluff Road's right around the corner from me. If I find out that thing's been leaking and they haven't told the public, oh my God, you might hear about me getting arrested at the State House today.
Well, somebody needs to be arrested over that, and it's not us. It should be some of the people that run that place because they didn't report it.
Wow, yeah. If this is being kept under wraps, and I haven't heard anything about it. I mean, nobody's told me nothing, and of course, the fake news has turned me off so bad. I got rid of TV completely. So I'm gonna have to find out. I'll call them after this show, and I'll call them and ask them what's going on, and they're probably gonna lie to me, but we'll see.
Yeah. Well, they will whitewash it somehow. That's the only thing they know how to do. But, you know, we were talking earlier about different guests that we had on too. I want to spend 3 minutes on a really wonderful interview that I had back in I think it was probably about 2002, 3, 4, something like that. I had Michio Kaku on. He is a theoretical physicist at the University of New York, like College or University of New York, and he's written many books. And I invited him on to the TV show, and he did it by telephone. And I had his picture up there, and he, showed some pictures and stuff. And he told me something that I had never thought about before, and that opened up my mind to actually start looking into the quantum existence. He said, we're all being told that we live in a three-dimensional existence here, but we're not. It is 4 dimensions. We are in the 4th dimensional universe right now, here where we sit. And one of them is, length, width, and height. And now you have a box. Nothing happens in that box until you add the 4th dimension to it, which is time. So, and that made so much sense back then. I says, I'll be dipped in chocolate. I'm going to start looking into this. And I did, and I've studied it some. And of course, later on, I had a download, but I saw a lot of it. And that's, I wrote a book about some of this stuff too. And when we're thinking about the 4th dimension that we're living in, it is only a short step over to the 5th, where we have access to all knowledge, in addition to all the other 4 dimensions. Because the 4th dimension is mostly just in addition to what we have all knowledge. And also outside in the slightly elevated vibration, that's where ghosts get trapped sometime if they don't have the smart to get out of there.
So that's how they get trapped on it. I wondered if they decided to stick around or if they just couldn't leave.
I think they very often decide that they love their family so much, or they just hang around because of attachments to the physical, and then their time to leave kind of get ahead of them, and they just lose thought or lose sight of that, because everybody, once they pass across or they drop the body, they can leave and go to the higher vibrations and move on. But a lot of people don't do that. They just hang around. Oh, I love my wife so much, I want to stay with her. Well, yeah, she doesn't see you, and you're not able to communicate with her, even though they can see her. But they should get out of there. Because if you get trapped there, you can get stuck in this time loop that we're in, and you just can't get out of there, and that could last forever. I mean, look over in England, they have ghosts walking around in the old castles that has been there for 1,000 years.
Yeah.
That's scary.
It is scary. I joke around. I say, well, when I pass away, if I have an option to hang around for a little while and mess with some people, I want to do that. But I don't think I'd want to get stuck, because it don't sound like it'd be fun being in a world where nobody could see me or hear me without maybe a psychic or something helping them along.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I tell you, when it comes to ghosts, that was probably 25, 30 years ago back in Omaha. I went to a funeral one time, and there was a friend that had died, and I went to it, and we were standing around there, getting his coffin sunk in the ground, and his dog was there. And his dog was just making all kinds of noises, trying to jump up in the air and like put his feet on something. And there was obviously that the dog saw something and he was trying to communicate or just stand up and lean on what he saw. And we all looked at each other and we kind of knew, aha, he's here. And the dog saw him, so he wanted to interact with him.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. I've even seen where dogs, they're so loyal. They'll go to you take them to the grave and they'll actually lay on it and cry. But if you see the dog stand up and get happy, well, guess what?
Yeah, something's there.
Something is there. These animals, they are so perceptive to these things. I mean, sometimes I'll be outside, and of course I'm in Columbia, South Carolina, and the dog will go outside, and he'll be looking and sometimes barking or growling at something that's really just not there. I don't see anything. And I joke sometimes and I say, you got to wonder, with all the history here in South Carolina with the Civil War and slavery, anybody could be walking through this backyard right now that, just because we can't see them, who knows? There could be a whole brigade of men walking through the backyard.
Hey, Michael, we have right about 3 minutes left of the show here, and I would love for you to talk maybe a little bit about LNM Radio and some of the growing pain and what you've been going through and some of the successes that you see in the future for yourself.
Well, okay. The network has been blessed with some of the great minds and great people like Ira, who had come along, and of course Katie and Daryl now, who have taken over as program directors, so the network, the future is looking really good for LNM. We've got a whole bunch more shows that are coming in, and we're trying to. We're growing fast. I do stress to my peoples here is that let's not, like you said earlier, you don't want to grow too fast because sometimes that can happen. But we're growing, I think, at a good rate. Studio A and B, I think, have a really bright future. And I see this network, still doing some great things. There's always challenges with it, whether it be dealing with people, or dealing with technology. There's always going to be challenges, to that. And, I don't know if 20 years, if this network will still be here. I know that in my mind, I see it here in 20 years. And so I just want to I want us to really be the Amazon of radio. I want us to have, you don't need to go anywhere else. I want you to be able to come to LNM Radio Network and we've got the variety. Anything you want is here. And so I think that's what we're accomplishing. But I've always wanted it to be where we have interaction with our listeners, where, we're not, some shows, good luck trying to get a hold of the host. It's good luck trying to, you might send them an email and you might have to send them 20 emails before they finally say hi. And we're very, we're not untouchable. We got a chat room here. I handle my own social media. I don't have anybody else handling that for me. So yeah, I think we're in really good shape. We got great hosts like you, on this network. And as long as, we all stay in harmony and keep doing what we love to do, I don't see why this can't go on for a very long time. And, I could have been selfish and just said, well, my show, let me just worry about that. And but you know, I if we have a chance to bring good talent to the air, then I want to do that.
Sounds wonderful. And also, it's probably more appropriate by me saying this than Michael. And I would encourage everybody listening to this either now live or later. Go to the LNM Radio Network website and or wherever you find it. Find the donate button, because we are supported by donations. And this is something that needs to be done, because there is growing pains and we have now additional expenses for the station. So please help us out. I tell you, this is going to be one big thing in the future. I can see this growing because there is good people at the helm for it.
Well, very, very well said, Aage. Listen, I want to, before we run out of time here, I want to thank you so much for having me on. You know, it's so nice to be a guest rather than the host sometimes, because, you know, I don't have to worry about all the buttons and the knobs and the whistles. I could just sit back and have a conversation with my friend.
Yeah. I had a blast. This was wonderful. You know, we'll find a time and do this again sometime.
All right. Sounds good. And I got to get you back on my show sometime soon.
Oh, I got another. There's an interesting subject that I have been researching that proves the Earth is hollow.
Oh.
There's science backing it now. So we'll talk about that sometime.
All right. Sounds good. Aage, listen, thank you for all you do on this network. We love you. We appreciate you. And we're looking forward to many more years of doing this with you. So thank you.
Sounds great. Thank you. Thank you for being a guest with us. And next week, we'll be back again with the Universal Consciousness Show. And until then, take care of each other.